Okay, two things I think. Holding water is hard, and also, um, I wish that, or no, let's just talk about an interesting thing with labor. So, hmm. See how that yellow light is flashing on the control panel there by the door? Well, the red light is not flashing, which is strange because it was flashing the other day, and the red light is to say that my dirty water tank is full. So the water from my sinks in my shower. So why is it not full now? Um, and it is true that when it gets really really full, it overflows a little bit, which is actually kind of cool. Then you're not dumping anywhere, but just let a little of it out as you're driving, and just a few drops every once in a while, and then the sun will dry it, and then a few more drops. So that's kind of cool. So I was imagining that in the design of the water tank, that there be tiny holes, to let out a little water every now and then. Except then it wouldn't be able to hold water, um, because you put a few tiny holes and water can escape pretty quickly. And then I thought of the expression that doesn't hold water. And I don't know about you, but I think I have been thinking of it wrong, using it wrong. I mean, I guess I could use it in the same situations that I use it, or I would, and it basically means the same thing. But holding water is hard. So it's like imagine if you were talking about a bucket, and there are these gigantic, in fact there's no bottom in the bucket. So it can't even hold like a large rock. Now let's imagine that the bottom is covered, but maybe there are some holes the size of pebbles. So it can hold some large rocks, but it can't hold pebbles. Pebbles will make it out. And then you close up those holes a little bit, maybe put some sand in there. Wow, it can hold sand. Okay, or rice or whatever. And then you close every single hole. And now you've got something that can hold water. Then, the ultimate complement for a position or whatever you're using this expression to describe is something that it doesn't even need gravity, because air doesn't care about gravity. So now we're talking about a bucket with a sealed top. Whoa, that holds air. So anyway, so when we say, yo, that doesn't hold water, at least that's kind of the way that I say it. I mean, I don't actually say it. That's not in my vernacular. Um, but uh, but I would imagine saying it would be, yo, that doesn't hold water, as in it doesn't meet sort of the most basic criteria for an argument to be able to hold water. But actually, no, the most basic criteria would be to hold pebbles. And it's like Steven Pinker was saying, where's the word? Enthymeme. He was saying that basically, since we're humans, every argument we make is an enthymeme. It's not uh, both sound and valid. There's always going to be some sort of hole in the argument. Um, so none of it holds water. None of our arguments really hold water, but it is cool when there's like a gaping hole at the bottom. It is cool to try to close that up a little bit, be able to hold some pebbles, maybe even some rice, maybe even some sand, and don't waste your time even trying to hold water. But you could, if that's like a project and you work on it with a bunch of people, and it's like days working on it, thinking about it, writing and all that. All right, yeah, then you could probably come up with something that holds water. Something that holds air. I don't even think that's possible to It's not even, it's too hard to test. We don't have the omniscience to even know whether something is holding air, metaphorically speaking. We do have the tools to detect whether something holds air, non metaphorically speaking. But in what I'm talking about, we just don't even have the ability to know whether air is escaping. Barely have the ability in teams, the smartest people, to figure out if water is escaping. Um, so anyway, that's what I wanted to say about that. Here's another thing that I think is interesting, and I hope you thought that was interesting, but probably didn't need 5.5 minutes. That's okay. I was thinking about labor. I've made comments before about how with an ADHD brain, the whole working for something and then that something will get my needs met. That little deviation, that little detour, that added extra step, I got left behind. People like me kind of got left behind. Some of us, the unlucky ones, when that shift was made. You know, there was a time where you go hunt, all of your labor there gets you some food and gets food for your community members. You go collect some berries, you go build a house, you go chop down some wood, whatever. So it was direct labor, reward. But now there's this interim reward, money. So you work for the money, which there are lots of human brains that works for, and that's why the system exists. But hold on, what? I got to go for that paper there, and then with that paper, then I go do that. I'm not feeling that paper just is not, and I know that paper would eventually get me those things. And I get there are some of those things that I want, but I just can't do it for the paper. Is there any way I can just do it directly for those things? It's just how my brain functions. But it really changed. And so I talked about that before, but I want to talk more about the labor investment. Like it's actually like pretty major. Um, so in what I might imagine as my ideal environment or world would be that if I want something, then I work for it. If it's raining and my tent isn't protecting me from the water or my home, whatever, then I go find some more wood, or I go, or I go to Decathlon or whatever. But anyway, I go find some more wood back then, and some leaves and some whatever, and I invest labor. I put work into it, and I have what I need. If I'm hungry, I go set some traps. I go, work on the garden, whatever. So my brain is not adapted to this new system. It was well adapted to the idea of if you want something, you work hard for it. But honestly, I mean, they are making quite fools out of us. I mean, out of soapies, the people who are giving their labor for the paper, because you know damn well that you're spending a lot of time getting maybe even a lot of paper, at least relative to like what you actually need. Um, so if we suppose that sort of before we had to put in enough labor to have shelter and food, and sometimes that was really hard. Sometimes that was a lot of labor. Um, but those were the things. And then we had this new world where it's like, cool. Oh wow, I don't actually have to work as hard, to get food. Um, we have agriculture, and we've got some people working really, really hard on some farms. And then the food's just in the stores there. And so then you might think, okay, so then I'm going to reallocate, since I'm not working on that farm, going to reallocate that labor to get in the paper to pay the guys who are working on the farm for this food that I have, and to pay the hunters and the slaughterers. But then how much would you need to work? How much are you spending on food? By the way, you do need to work a little bit more because that food, well, I don't know. I don't know. It'd probably be silly to try to actually compare the units of time and labor and money and different ages and stuff. Anyway, it's just something unfortunate about the lack of freedom in the labor to result equation. You have to work 40 hours or 35 hours. Uh, it doesn't matter sort of what you need. You are going to get a certain amount of paper. And then what's funny is the way that how you can use that paper. Because you're not going to have time to do a lot of stuff that you would have used the paper for. I don't know, parties and, inviting people over, having, meals together, just like basic, like real things that humans like want and need. So, I mean, I mean, they got y'all good though. So then you work for this paper. You pay more for an apartment than or for housing than you actually need because they've got you convinced that you need all these amenities and stuff. Had you just, worked a bit to get enough to buy a little bit of land, maybe some materials, um, but we're just throwing it in rent. So I mean, they did get y'all good because so then you're forced to like live in a certain kind of place. You're made to think you need certain things that like you don't. And one of the big ones, besides certain home amenities that you don't really need, um, one of the big ones is fashion. And then you like the number of people who have a work uniform, whether that be a suit or whatever, or overalls or whatever, and they spend their time and their energy and their labor into getting the paper. And then on the weekend, 2 days out of the week, they're like, okay, now what do I do with this paper now? Spending a bunch of it on this apartment that I'm sure I need all these niceties because I can't imagine living without them. And there are no examples of people who live happily without them. And now I'm just gonna like spend it on keeping up with the Kardashians, the Joneses, just having nice things that I just really think that I need. Certain brands, certain handbags. I can't believe I'm living in this world. So sorry, I guess let me try to read. Hold on, let me just check on you. Pas tout de suite, mais ce soir peut-être. Ben, c'est si. Mais c'est comme tu veux. Moi, je te suis. C'est pas loin, mais on va charger le docteur avant. Ah oui, ok, oui. Là, on est jeudi. Ah oui, carrément. Ah ouais. Oui. Le temps passe vite ici. Oui. Non, 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 bah du coup, c'est pas grave. On peut passer cette nuit là-bas, ce soir là-bas, et après, je recharge. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this differently. Hello, my fellow risers. How's everyone doing? Good, good, good. Um, I don't know where you fall in the soapy to artsy spectrum. Whether you're on the soapy end, totally, which is defined by some of your tastes and needs, quote unquote, are in line with soapy society people. Soapy society people. And I'm sorry if I sounded judgmental earlier. Um, for some people, they're really happy in that, and because it's for some brains, it's a great life. You look at the list of, you sign up for some duty, and then you get, heating whenever you want. You can have a guy on a bike bring you a meal every meal, and it's there's some brains that I think probably would really like they would be unhappy otherwise. I think that's a small percentage of brains. And then I think there are a lot of brains who that's all that they know. And that's I mean that's all you can know. Um and it works well enough, and you don't hate having heating in the winter. You don't hate the convenience of Uber Eats or whatever. And it's nice to have the latest iPhone and so on. And it's kind of annoying that you got to go, like, for these things that are just kind of nice, you got to go and sign up for this job that, didn't come from here. Um, and so we're moving a little bit, not quite towards the halfway point, but away from the complete soapy extreme. But maybe you live as a complete soapy because, again, or maybe you've gotten lucky. Maybe you were able to make money early in life, and so then you're able to sort of get out of that, uh, or maybe you just went really into it. I'm gonna do real estate and blah 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 blah. I'm just gonna be a total soapy and just be spending others' labor on things I don't need at all, but it's really status and blah blah. Whatever. Do you? I don't know. There's nobody in the middle of the spectrum because we're kind of polarized by norms. And being a soapy is the norm. And if you go to the other extreme, you have the total art fees. I mean, there are people sprinkled throughout the spectrum, but let's just go to the other extreme. Art fee is artist or philosopher, and that's a mission that comes from here. And by the way, it doesn't you don't have to literally be an artist. Like somebody who, like, for instance, their whole thing is like helping other people, like volunteering, going and making wells, or whatever, giving food or whatever, well, they count as like an artist and philosopher because they have to give their time to something that isn't going to uh, that isn't, first of all, one of the things that society sort of asked them to do. It needed them to do it, but it didn't ask them to do it. And then also they won't be sort of as rewarded for it as much as if they were the manager of a high-end boutique. So anyway, so basically it's just either it's mission from here / mission from there, or mission from the guys over there. That's what the difference is. Yo, what do you need me to build? Okay, yeah, I'll do it. And then for that, I'll be able to feed my kid and feed my kids. Of course, and of course there are some people where they're working like dogs just to be able to put food on the table for their families. And they're not buying, they're not going to Zara. I wonder about that. What would their lives be like if there wasn't this such strict labor trade where you had to give a bunch of labor for paper? Where what if you could give just as much labor as you... I'm confused. I mean, you can't have to work 60 hours to feed 5 people. That 60 hours a week to feed 5 people. That doesn't, I'm not sure of that. Also because if we didn't have, because this labor trade thing, right? Children aren't allowed to work. And that's fine because a lot of the jobs are not for children. But growing food, checking traps, that kind of stuff is for, 11-year-olds. So by making the dad have to like go work in a factory and then the kids just like go to school and sit at home and the wife just like takes care of them at home, you're putting all of that labor on whichever parent is doing it. Whereas anybody who grew up on a farm or something knows that that's not real life. Like, you're not waiting until you're 22 and out of college to, or that you're, out of high school to get a job and whatever and move out, blah, blah. No, as soon as you're able to carry X from A to B, you're doing it. You can do your homework and go to school, and you're also you're gonna have your labor. Or anybody whose parents had a restaurant or whatever. And that seems healthier to me. I mean, there's obviously a lot of issues. Also, there's things about, things are expensive. All right, so we're gonna, now the last thing I want to say about this, and I know maybe none of it's been clear, so I hope you've been just taking notes, and then please share the notes with me so that I know what just happened. The other thing I want to say is impossible that those who are raking in the mills, the millions, are working that much harder than those where he came the tens of thousands. Not possible. Especially when you know that there are people who are doing manual labor 60 hours a week. Just not possible. Fuck. Also not possible that a person making 10 times, 50 times, 100 times as much as another person. Oui.
Il y a le black qui me dit on peut pas rester là.
Ah, ok. Je comprends.
J'en étais sûr.
Ok. Ça marche. Bah, je termine.
C'est pas pressé. Pas pressé non plus. Hein.
Ça marche. We'll talk another time about whether it's a myth that they've actually earned that much more. You know what's kind of funny? It's kind of funny is imagining money imagining that there isn't unlimited money. If you imagine like money as a finite resource, you know, like food, or maybe like pizza, boxes of pizza. And so that means that, you know, if we were to imagine money as being this finite resource, then the more that you have of it, the less for everybody else. Which doesn't mean don't have a slice of pizza. It also doesn't mean don't have 2 slices of pizza. But it is, when you imagine it that way, and now let me put you back up. When you imagine it that way, it is really funny to think about the way that people think. This actually even has a foot thing on it. Actually, if I put it there, it's just gonna fall aside, whatever. The way that people flaunt having all these pizza boxes, so they'll like wear the cardboard cutouts all over themselves. Just be like, yeah, I just get a shit ton of pizza. And then if you go, yo, you know, there are people that actually didn't get a slice today. Those people that got all the boxes, they'll say, I worked really hard to carry all these boxes. I worked really hard to, like, I kept going back in line, and anybody else could have done that. They could have just kept going back in line. They could have carried more boxes. They could have blah, blah, but they didn't. So, yeah, they're hungry, and I can go like this. And then they smear some pizza all over themselves and lick it off. I don't know, I think that's a funny thing to imagine. Actually, it's funny because food is actually less finite than money. As food reproduces itself. Plants and animals and the sun just create more of that shit. And so you go out, now let's say you go out real far, and you go hunt some nice game, got a couple buffalo. And then you keep it all for your, I guess if you went really far, so that you're definitely not taking from sort of the communal resources. But there isn't such a thing as far, because we're all over the planet now, so there's nowhere to go to just like, actually, morally speaking, to go just hunt for, just to have more cardboard logos on your fucking shit. Here's another thing I want to say. Let's talk about another thing while we're making this soup. Alright, here's another thing. Alright, what if we, instead of imagining more evil or harm or, I don't know, just not good it's bad mental mechanisms that end up hurting the people around you. And there are some people that just don't have, there's some people that have better its than other people as far as being pro-social. I had a friend of mine one time, and I remember, I'm very generous, and so when he wasn't working and I had a good job, so I was always buying him stuff to eat every, well, I don't know, not every night, but multiple times a week. We'd meet up at this place, get him something to eat. I even bought him a couple games for his Xbox and stuff. Maybe one game. Maybe I'm exaggerating when I say a couple. Anyway, and then if you, like, didn't have money or your wallet on you, or even if it was at another point in our friendship where he was the one who had money and I didn't, and you asked him to spot you, it's a whole conversation. Hey, could you get this meal for me? Because, I got dozens for you. So, could you get, and it's like, and I wasn't really mad about it. that's just the way that he was. I actually got pleasure out of getting him food. Jesus fucking Christ. When have I ever not been good? Fuck it out. No, that's totally inappropriate of me. My mom called me. She's been texting me today. You good? I've been in the thoughts today. Leave me alone, but that's not justified. She's just checking in. She doesn't know I'm in the thoughts today. So, my bad. Here's the thing. What happened there was, my mechanisms are the way that they are. My its are the way that they are. And there are lots of them that I can work on. But they'll never all be perfect. I will never, mothers like to check on offspring. Totally fair. I was like, when have I not been okay? Anyway. My mechanisms, my its will never be perfect, neither will yours. Now, do I put this on low heat now? Am I causing a whole lot of harm? And then if I am, quarantine morality. Basically, rather than thinking, what if we think of a really bad set of its? A person that's just like, oh man, those its, as they are right now, lead into some bad stuff around for people. Okay. What if we imagine them as being ill? Because I want to talk about responsibility a little bit more practically than we do currently. Just imagine with me that this person is ill. And imagine that this person's loved ones take care of them, make sacrifices to take care of this person, and also keep this person from getting other people sick. So it's their family, so they take that burden on themselves. If you imagine it that way, right? If we imagine that humans aren't these actually intelligent, rational creatures where it doesn't matter what your its are, you can just do whatever, or whatever magical first cause bullshit for you or whatever. Anyway. So if we imagine that, I don't think I did that right. Oh, 15 minutes, okay. So if we imagine that, then one thing is funny is that, you wouldn't see Hitler as the bad guy in the story. Hitler is a terrible, terrible person. The way that they are wired, and the circumstances that he experienced led to a certain output from him, which was, of course, aided by the people around him. What did not happen was that people with good moral sense went and took that burden upon themselves and kept him shut down. I don't think there were that many evil people actually really involved. I think it was a lot of stupidity and a lot of people just not taking response. Alright, you know what? Fuck this. I'm done with this video. Let me just say that it sounds absolutely wild, the stuff I just said. But what if you think of it as like being a zombie or having rabies or something, like really bad it mechanisms. And that is accurate. And also, here's the thing. There are some bad mechanisms that are meant to be had by just a couple of people for some advantage. So for instance, let's say someone who's really ambitious, right? They will do absolutely anything to cut down competitors. And well, let's just say for the ambitious part, they are always trying to do more. And let's say that their ambition is competitive, so they're trying to do more than other people. And then as part of that, just no hold bar, no whatever. They'll do anything to their competitors. So that could offer a survival advantage to the community, that you got some with that energy. But you don't want to actually be going around really hurting people or whatever, and you don't want to be unfair. So there's supposed to be another set of another brain in the community, besides this one, that limits that. That would be ideal. That regulates that other person's energy. So I think we all have a responsibility to sort of be quarantiners or regulators of the other neuronal sets around us. And we benefit, right? And there's a lot of celebrities, right? Maybe will benefit enormously from their ideas, from their whatever. But then there will be some moral issue. Okay, yeah. So stop them from doing that. Reduce that harm. That's it. We don't actually have to be all that mad about it. Anger is just supposed to motivate us to figure out a way to deal with it. So, I don't know. The way it's supposed to sound, it's supposed to be like a kind of a really healthy way to look at the people around you. First of all, they're not evil. They're not out to get you. But if their its do sort of cause harm around them, that may be the interpretive its around them, or that may be the output from their own its. Let's not be mad at them. That's just the way that they are. Hopefully, they want to try to work on it. Okay, cool. So there's some good its in there that want to work on the other ones. So then we all team up and we work on that. If they don't want to work on it, if they do not commit to sort of morality. Now sometimes, right, you might accuse someone of something and they don't want to work on it, but that's because they don't really acknowledge it. But if they're open to hearing what the concern is, and if they want goodness, they have lots of goodness in them, but there's some behavior mechanism, some processing mechanism that is causing some harm. But all that good in them doesn't want to do that. Great, but if they don't want to, then yeah, I guess you just keep them away from the rest of us. And if it fell on you, it fell on you. That may sound insensitive, but I'm not gonna